All right. Lesson 4, his mission's roots. So this lesson begins the Abhideya phase of our journey, deepening our commitment to Srila Prabhupada's mission. And does anybody know where Prabhupada is there? Yeah, in his rooms, right at the Radha Damodar compound. Yeah, this is taken in 1972, actually. In the early 60s, say in 62, he was living there alone. No one knew him, but and he was translating the Bhagavatam. In 72, ISKCON was 6 years old, and he was in Vrindavan. He brought some Western disciples to Vrindavan to deliver lectures on the Nectar of Devotion. They're very famous. It's called Nectar Devotion Series Lectures. It starts in October 72, and it continues even in Bombay in 73. So one fine day, my godsister Jamuna, who was serving Prabhupada lunch, you see that kind of fancy. Everything Jamuna did was very fancy, or as much as she could. She said to her friend Vishaka, Yadupar's wife, "Oh, Vishaka, you've got to see what I'm seeing every day. Prabhupada's taking lunch and he's looking out the window at Rupa Goswami's samadhi, just like he did when he was all alone. We've got to get a picture of this." So Vishaka came, and Prabhupada's actually posing there. You see, he's just about to take prasad, and so he held the pose, and therefore we have this nice shot. From the beginning, signs of Abhay Charan Day's divine destiny had appeared. His birth by the Ganges on Nandotsava. Oh, his birth by the Ganges on Nandotsava, the celebration of Lord Krishna's advent.
His lesson 4, his
yeah.
missions.
Now this is weird, it didn't move. Yeah, his mission's roots. Let's see.
I think it's open twice. So.
Oh, yeah. So we got to X out one. Huh. So maybe that's why. Maybe I can put it in, better mode. Yeah, there you go.
Now it should be together.
Let's see. Okay. Let's do it again. Thank you. From the beginning, signs of Abhay Charan Day's divine destiny had appeared. His birth by the Ganges on Nandotsava, the celebration of Lord Krishna's advent. Okay.
Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, wait a minute, that's not it. I'm sorry. His childhood devotion to deity worship, especially Ratha Yatra, Lord Krishna's chariot parade, his pure devotee father's constant prayer that his son become a great preacher, and his stars and palm affirming that at the age of 70, he would cross the ocean, become a powerful spiritual leader, and open 108 temples.
Srila Prabhupada. One astrologer, sometimes he read my hand. He said in Hindi, "Hukum chalega." Your hand speaks that your order will be executed.
When my audience is just Western devotees, they don't know Hukum chalega, what's that? So then I put what Prabhupada translated. Okay.
His mission's seed.
By his own account, in 1922, when Srila Prabhupada and a friend first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was, quote, Gandhi's devotee, dressed in the white khadi of an Indian nationalist and boycotting all things British. By the way, if you've read the Lilamrita complete multi-volume, this roughly corresponds to the first volume, A Lifetime in Preparation, roughly. So he was surprised by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's first words to them, quote, you are educated young men. Why don't you preach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message throughout the whole world? Impressed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's bold conviction, Abhay nonetheless felt compelled to challenge him. Who will hear your Chaitanya's message? We are a dependent country. First, India must become independent. How can we spread Indian culture if we are under British rule? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta replied that Krishna consciousness, the original pure consciousness of every living being, was too urgent to wait for a change in politics. Misidentifying with matter, suffering humanity was forever pursuing freedom through temporary, earthbound movements, including Gandhi's. But reconnecting everyone to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and our dearmost friend, was the highest welfare work. Struck by this masterful reply, Abhay's allegiance flew straight from Gandhi to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, whose mission would soon reignite Lord Chaitanya's divine movement throughout India.
I accepted him immediately. Prabhupada later recalled, not officially, but in my heart.
Nor was that heartfelt acceptance merely sentimental. In another Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Disappearance Day lecture in Hyderabad on December 10, 1976, Srila Prabhupada further stated, quote, so anyway, from 1922 to 1933, practically I was not initiated, but I got the impression of preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult. And that was the initiation by my Guru Maharaj. Then officially, I was initiated in 1933. So Prabhupada says the real initiation was right at the first meeting when Bhaktisiddhanta told him to preach. He said that was really, that's what, that was the real essence. And then officially, he said, I was initiated in 1933. Already a husband, father, and office manager at a Calcutta pharmaceutical company, Abhay decided to start his own pharmacy, expand the business, and also contribute to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's mission. So in 1923, he moved his family to Allahabad and started Prayag Pharmacy, which soon flourished under his diligent management. His sense of mission would also flourish as he studied the writings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and his Gaudiya predecessors, the disciplic lineage from Lord Chaitanya. So that was the seed, and I call this part initiation. By the way, Mataji is suffering again from allergies, or anybody know?
Vishaka?
Yeah.
She had an emergency at home,
Oh,
so she had to leave yesterday, and she's coming soon
okay.
today.
Wow. Emergency with her?
With her family, something.
Oh, her
had
family.
happened.
Okay. All right. Initiation. In 1928, when senior sannyasis approached Abhay for help starting a branch of the Gaudiya mission in Allahabad, that's where Prabhupada was with his business, he was delighted to contribute his contacts and resources and later became a favorite speaker and singer at the temple. By 1932, it had been 10 years since Abhay met the saintly person he revered as his spiritual master. That autumn, when he heard that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was leading a massive parikrama around Vrindavan, the sacred place of Krishna's early pastimes, he briefly broke free from his business to join the pilgrims. Soon after he arrived at Koshi, the devotees were given the choice of visiting the nearby Sheshashayi Vishnu deity or staying to hear Srila Bhaktisiddhanta give his final talk before leaving the party. Srila Prabhupada. At that time, I think only 10 or 12 men remained. Everybody else went to see the deity, even though it was the last day that Bhaktisiddhanta was going to be with him. So Prabhupada thought, well, wait a minute. I'm here to hear Guru Maharaj. And I thought it wise, what can I see at this Sheshashayi? Let me hear what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati will speak. Let me hear. And then Prabhupada also said in that same recording, he said, Guru Maharaj, he was speaking in a very high way. I could not always follow what he was saying, but I loved to hear him speak. I didn't leave just because it was hard to follow. Let me hear. In 1933, while Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was visiting his mission's new branch at Allahabad, the local leader recommended Abai for initiation. That's what we're focusing. Okay, go ahead. The seed.
It froze again.
Oh, no. What's going on here? Oh, the seed sprouts. I just clicked it back. Maybe we need the cord.
Yesterday also we were doing it like this, but
Yeah, well,
it's changed.
that's cyberspace. Yeah, and then you're going to click it again for the words, and then, okay, well, let's...
The seed sprouts.
Right, okay. Let's see. Yes.
Yes, I shall initiate this boy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, he is very nice. He hears me very patiently. He does not go away.
So Prabhupada said he loved to hear, and Bhaktisiddhanta noticed that. So that was Prabhupada's qualification. And he also said in that same, he said, and because I love to hear, now I can speak. So there's the key. If we want to be able to be fluent and realized in Krishna Katha, we have to really absorb ourselves in Shravanam. Then Kirtanam will follow. So that's initiation. There's Srila Bhaktisiddhanta giving the beads and changing Abhay Charan Day's name to what? Yes, Abhay Charan Aravinda. He just added Aravinda. One who was fearless at the lotus feet of Krishna. Although Abhai's wife chose not to attend the ceremony, a brother and sister were present as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave Abhai the initiated name, Abhai Charanaravinda Das. Quote, the servant of one fearless at Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Unquote. He also gave his capable disciple instructions to study deeply Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, right at initiation. He said, study this, which Prabhupada would later summarize as Nectar of Devotion. Yeah. Quote, the law book for devotional service. Over the years, Abhay would meet Srila Bhaktisiddhanta perhaps a half dozen times, yet the talks were intimate enough to raise eyebrows. Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes I would talk freely with him, and the God brothers would become angry. They would say, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I thought, I may be a fool, but what can I do? With my Guru Maharaj, we would talk so many private things. I was only a Grihasta, but whenever I came, my Guru Maharaj would be very glad to talk with me. He would even insist that Abai sit right on the same seat with him, same level. And then the godbrothers were like, what is he doing? But this is Bhaktisiddhanta, marked him. This is a special person. And he wanted him to sit with him. Okay. So the next section, it's called Blessings. And I called it that because the year now is 1935. And Prabhupada received 3 major blessings from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that year. 2 were very sweet, and 1 was very heavy. So this is a very, it's like a turning point in Prabhupada's life when you see these blessings. Although an astrologer had predicted Abai could become one of the wealthiest men in India, in 1934, bad debtors and cutthroat competitors obliged him to turn over the debts and accounts of the Prayag pharmacy to his supplier and former employer in Calcutta. After arranging a small pharmaceutical works to support his family in Allahabad, Abai and a brother ventured to Bombay, seeking new sales and production opportunities. So it wasn't happening, this whole thing of the prediction of him becoming another Birla, very wealthy. So Prabhupada thought, okay, we've got to go to the real market, the real big city, Bombay, and surely that will work. But Lord Krishna, it turned out, had greater opportunities in mind. As in Allahabad, Abai in Bombay met senior Gaudiya Math sannyasis who asked him to help them start a mission branch in Bombay, because Prabhupada, he knew how to organize and recruit and inspire, fundraise. So this was Bhakti Saranga Maharaj and Sridhar Maharaj. They had been ordered by Bhakti Siddhanta to go start something in Bombay, but they didn't know how to do it, So they met Abai again, and they had heard he helped start the Allahabad Mat. So can you help us? So although he was there to do business, again, Krishna had him meet sannyasis for some spiritual business. His preaching increasing since initiation, Abai soon helped them launch a successful center. So that was in 34. So on the evening of February 25th, 1935, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's 61st birthday, it's his Vyasa Puja, Abai delivered an English speech and poem to the members of the Bombay Gaudiya Math, capturing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and his mission so eloquently that a godbrother dubbed him Kavi, or learned poet. So Abai was he was very good at English speaking and writing, and he was really a key player in the whole launch of Bombay Gaudiya Math, that they chose him, the leaders, to be the keynote speaker at the whole event. So, all right. Damayanti.
His creeper blessed.
Okay, so now we're going to, so Prabhupada, he delivered the address. It's published every year in the BBT Vyasa Puja book. It's called The Universal Teacher, the address that Prabhupada gave in 1935. And then he recited a poem. And then later, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta read it, and he thought, oh, he's captured the essence of my mission. And so, especially this stanza, which we're fortunate enough to have audio of Prabhupada reciting this stanza. So here it is. Let's see how it sounds.
Absolutely sentient Taoist. Impersonal calamity Taoist.
Okay. Especially pleasing to his spiritual master was the couplet, absolute is sentient. Sentient means has senses, it's person, right? Thou hast proved impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. Now, 34 years later, in 1969, Prabhupada was in London at the Berry Place Temple. And, the three Grihastha couples, Guru Das and Jamuna, and Shamsundar and Malati, and Mukunda and Janaki, had, done what those Gaudiya Mat sannyasis couldn't do in the 30s. They were inspiring Londoners. They were startling Londoners, with their Harinam, and then with George Harrison's help, they got the Berry Place Temple, and then Guru Das. And the Berry Place Temple was actually in a very prestigious part of London, with a lot of museums, the British Museum, the Royal Asiatic Society. So I think it was in the British Museum where Guru Das one day, he found the copy of the Harmonist that this poem appeared in. And he brought it to Prabhupada. He brought either a copy or I hope he didn't steal it, because in those days you never knew. He brought it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "Oh, I thought this was lost." And he read the whole poem. And then, after reading the poem, he actually changed a word in the poem. Prabhupada is the source of all book changes. All of you conspiracy theorists who think the BBT is changing Prabhupada's books, right? So anyway, and the change happened right in this stanza. Can you guess what word he changed?
Impersonal.
No, it's a word, I'll give you a hint. It's a word that isn't quite, you see, in 1935, Prabhupada knew English, but he knew better English in 69. It was always, so this is a word that isn't quite the word that Prabhupada meant when he wrote the word. But do you know what word it is? No, it's not thou.
Sentient.
That's just an old.
Sentient.
No, thou is just an old. It's an archaic form of thee or you.
Absolute.
No, boy, you're getting everyone pretty slow. Process of elimination.
Only proof is there. Has to be there.
It's amazing. You still haven't get it. Okay, there's
Moved.
only
Moved.
what? Moved.
Moved.
Thou hast. He meant by moved. He meant removed. Thou hast removed. Now you could sort of think with poetic license that okay, moved, removed. It's sort of, you get the idea, because poets do that a lot. And Prabhupada, that's why when you see this poem, sometimes it comes up, you'll see both versions, because one was the original and the other was how Prabhupada named it. This is how he actually recited it, and that's how he actually wrote it. Thou hast moved. When Abai submitted the speech and poem to the mission's English journal, the harmonist, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, instructed the editor, whatever he writes, publish it. That's the blessing. Whoa, everybody knows. Wow, Guru Maharaj said whatever Abhay Charanavindra writes, he should publish it. Everybody immediately knows that he must be a confidential disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, because Bhaktisiddhanta wants everybody to read what he's writing. Whew, that's huge. That's big. So that was in February 35. The next blessing happens in the summer of that year, in July. That July, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta came to install the deity of Lord Krishna in Bombay. So the launch had happened in February, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is getting around to go there to inspect the new center, and was pleased with the progress of the center. The leader, that's Bhakti Saranga Maharaj, said that much of the work was due to Abhay Babu, who had collected funds and helped establish the new branch. Quote, "Why is Abai living separately?" Bhakti Saranga asked. "He should be president of this Bombay center." Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati replied, famous reply, "It is, quote, it is better that he is living outside your company. He will do, when the time comes, he will do everything himself." It's like a prophecy, right? You don't have to recommend him. In other words, back off. All right. And Prabhupada wasn't there when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that, but he heard about it. Mystified by what he heard his spiritual master had said, Prabhupada later reflected, and this reflection, this quote I'm going to tell you now, didn't happen until January 77, after the whole movement had been a success. So Prabhupada reflected later. Quote, "That means he was so kind that he expected that I shall do something. That was my asset, his blessing. And I was thinking that this mission must be done very nicely. So desire was there, and maybe blessing was there. Yes, there was no question of qualification." So he's crediting the whole success of the Hare Krishna movement to the blessing, that blessing of his Guru Maharaj. Wow. So very sweet blessings. The third blessing is very heavy. It's a blessing, but it's heavy. And here we go. It's November now. So February, July, November. All right, Damayanti.
His creeper blessed.
Yes, but the picture you see has changed. And there's Bhaktisiddhanta walking at Radhakund, and there's Abai and his little son, Mathura Mohan, with him. And you see the look on Bhaktisiddhanta's face. He's very concerned. November 1935, once again found Abai with his spiritual master on Vrindavan Parikrama, this time at the most sacred place for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Radhakund. Walking with his intimate disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta confided in Abhay grave concerns about dissension among their ranks. Since a wealthy Calcutta patron had constructed a palatial headquarters for the mission, his senior disciples had been quarreling over who would have the best rooms. So, until 1930, the headquarters was in Altadanga Junction. Have you been to? They have, ISKCON has that place now, and they've made a whole Prabhupada museum out of it. And the rooftop, where Prabhupada actually met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. But then there was a wealthy patron of the Gaudiya Math. His name was Jagabandhu, and with his crores of rupees, he built this big palatial new headquarters at Bug Bazaar with many different rooms and facilities. But as soon as they all moved into that, then his senior disciples, Bhaktisiddhanta was confiding, they started fighting over who's going to have the nicest room. And so Bhaktisiddhanta was saying, if in his presence, his leading preachers were becoming attached to position and opulence, what would happen in his absence? Oh boy. Deeply concerned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said to Abhay, "Agun Jvalbe, there will be fire. One day there would be fire in the Calcutta Gaudiya mission, and that fire of party interests would spread and destroy." All right, here's the blessing, the heavy blessing.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta then said directly to Abhay, "Amar ichha chila kichu bai karana. I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books."
Standing by Radhakund and beholding his spiritual master, Abai felt the words deeply enter his own life. If you ever get money, print books. And there, Prabhu's, is the origin of Prabhupada's emphasis on book production and book distribution in ISKCON, right there. Prabhupada, or Bhaktisiddhanta also said, I wish I could sell the marble off the walls of that Bagbazar palace and print more books. You know, what's the use? It's just causing a lot of dissension amongst his leading preachers. That grave blessing highlighted a grave reality in Abai's life. Although he was trying to execute his spiritual master's mission by becoming wealthy, his Bombay business ventures were not bearing fruit. So even in the big city, Krishna wasn't allowing him to become a big industrialist, right? Big tycoon, another Birla. Despite Abai's assurance, he had new plans to expand. His situation especially disturbed his wife. Whenever Abai visited his family in Allahabad, he tried to involve her in preaching programs at home. But when interested guests would come, she stayed with the children in another room, sipping British tea. So the first sign of some conflict with Radharani Dey, his dear wife, was when she didn't go to the initiation. I mean, a brother and sister of Prabhupada's went, but she wasn't interested. She was a very pious lady, but she had no interest in becoming a missionary's wife. She just was she wanted a nice, peaceful family life, right? That was it. Now, because when you read the Lilamrita, you might get and later especially, of course, you know, when she said, when Prabhupada gave her that ultimatum in 1954, the tea or me, after she, you know, pawned his Bhagavatam for tea biscuits. And then she said, well, if I have to choose between my husband, tea or my husband, I'll have to choose the tea. She thought he was joking, right? But he wasn't. That was the last straw. He walked out. But, so you get an impression from reading the Lilam that maybe she's kind of a villain. You know, she's kind of an obstacle or something. But to balance things out here, I want to share with you a little anecdote that we get from my godbrother, Abhiram Prabhu, who served as Prabhupada's nurse in his last days. And sometimes Prabhupada would say things to Abhiram that others didn't even know, because the others were sannyasis and Abhiram was a householder. So maybe that's one reason why too. Well, anyway, here it is. I say, an aside is in order here. Although Radharani Dey's tea habit would later become the trigger for her husband to leave her and their grown children, in 1976, Prabhupada said with some remorse to Abhiram Prabhu. So listen to this. It's something you never hear Prabhupada has said in a room conversation or whatever. Quote, my wife was very tolerant. Now, why did he say that? That was her great qualification. And to this day, I regret how harsh I was. But what can I do? I have a hot temper. Prabhupada was more like his mother, Rajni, who, you know, when Abai didn't want to go to school, and then she hired a man to carry him to school. But first, you know, Gaur Mohan would say to Rajni, oh no, he's not feeling well, you know, let him, he'll go tomorrow. But she would have none of that. She just hired this guy and he carried him to school every day. To Motilal Seal Free School, right, in Calcutta. So I have a hot temper. So we, Prabhupada disciples, could also catch his temper. in his pure service to Krishna. Prabhupada sometimes would get really angry with us. And when Prabhupada was angry, you didn't want to be anywhere near him. He became like a roaring lion. And it was like, whoa, you know. But that said, even though he did have it, he had that side of him. Even when he was angry, he was. I'll tell you a funny story. I caught it not through words, but I caught his anger by a glance. Actually, it was it was disgust and anger. In 1972, Prabhupada is in Dallas to install Sri Sri Radhakalachandji. Anybody ever been to Dallas? Okay. If you ever go, it's really wonderful. And it was nothing like it is today, because Tamal Krishna Maharaj took it over in the late 70s and made this former basketball court into a palace. Yeah, it's like, it was a church, but part of the church was like a basketball court, and then the other part was the church. Anyway, so Prabhupada came, and before the installation of Radhakalachandji, there was an initiation ceremony. And during the initiation, which was being conducted by Pradyumna, his Sanskrit editor, and Shyam Sundar was there as Prabhupada's servant, and Satsrup Maharaj was the GBC, and I was there getting ready to hit the road with Satsrup Maharaj on a book distribution party. So Prabhupada is serving, he's just there, sort of overseeing it. And then at one point in the ceremony, Prabhupada stops the ceremony. He just stops everything. And he starts trying to communicate something that needed to be done before he would let the ceremony go on. And he told Shyam Sundar couldn't understand. And then he called Satsrup Maharaj couldn't get it. He asked Pradyumna, and Pradyumna couldn't understand. So then, because his trusty, assistants, his leaders couldn't understand, Prabhupada just started looking around at us, all of us, assembled devotees. So say Prabhupada is here, I was sitting right about where Prabhu is right there. Yeah, where you are. I was about in that direction from Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, he's looking around, and then he was like spanning from here to there, right? So when his head got to that part, he looked at me. But I was so foolish, and the look was, can you help me? Can you understand what I want? And so what did I do? How old was I? I was 25. I just started looking at Prabhupada, and I just started grinning. Like, just because he's looking at me, right? and then Prabhupada, he saw I was just an idiot, right? So he gave me this look. It was like anger, disgust. He said, "You are an idiot." That was the look. That's what it came. You are an idiot. You can never understand in a million years what I want. And so what did I got the message, but what was my response? Yeah. I'm an idiot. You love me, Srila Prabhupada, and I'm an idiot. And he just went on. He just kept going. So it's true. Even when Prabhupada was angry or disgusted, but it was out of love to teach us something, to correct us, or to try to bring us back down to earth. That don't think you're anything but foolish. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So it was extraordinary when I heard it's right on the. If you ever see the Memory series by Siddhanta Prabhu, it's Memory number 28, DVD number 28. It's amidst those different people who are speaking. Okay, so that is the heavy. Okay, that's the reality that Prabhupada, he's still kind of just struggling. And that was in 35. And now we're going to go to 1936. And I call this part Confirmation. Although Abai had already contributed much to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's Gaudiya mission, donating money, helping Allahabad and Bombay centers, submitting excellent English offerings. In December 1936, he wrote his spiritual master a letter asking if there was some way he could contribute more.
His mission confirmed. I am a householder. Sometimes I give monetary help, while I cannot give you direct service. Is there any particular service I can do?
Prabhupada later recalled the highlights of his spiritual master's reply. And of course, this line from the letter we got from Prabhupada, and then these excerpts from the reply Prabhupada also told us.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur replied, I am fully confident that you can explain in English our thoughts and arguments to the people. This will do much good to yourself as well as your audience.
So this is 36, and this is 14 years after he said, why don't you go to the West and preach, right? And now he's seeing that here's somebody who can actually do this.
I have every hope that you can turn yourself into a very good English preacher if you serve the mission to inculcate the novel impression of Lord Chaitanya's teaching in the people in general as well as philosophers and religionists.
Yeah. Little more than a fortnight after Abai read this letter, his spiritual master passed away. Prabhupada told us he left early. He was only 62. Yeah. But Prabhupada said he was disgusted. He was disgusted with what was becoming of his Gaudiya mission because of all the infighting and personal ambition. The same instruction he had received at their first meeting was reconfirmed. His Guru Maharaj's order was now the very purpose of his life. Okay, next section I call war. The quote, fire in the mission broke out almost immediately, although Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had clearly ordered his disciples to form a governing body and work, quote, conjointly. Some leaders began competing to replace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta as the mission's supreme spiritual authority, as well as the controller of the mission's assets. The fighting ended up in the courts, but because none of the parties was authorized, the unified Gaudiya mission Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had led throughout India and beyond, fragmented into isolated temples. Quote, living outside, remember, it's better he is living outside your company. Living outside, Abai felt protected by the order Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had given him. Yet, the dispersion of the unified Gaudiya mission was heartbreaking. Yeah. Imagine if ISKCON just, no more, nobody, no more GBC, everybody was fighting and in the courts. And we've already had a little bit of that, with the whole Ritvik thing with Hare Krishna Hill and Bangalore. But imagine if the whole ISKCON just disintegrated. In 1938, Abai dropped his Bombay ventures and moved his family back to Calcutta. So he gave up in Bombay. Okay, it's not working. Krishna's not letting it happen. To maintain, he began to produce pharmaceuticals in the front room of his flat. Deepening his study of his spiritual master's books, he spoke Krishna-conscious philosophy to whoever would listen, determined to somehow carry on Lord Chaitanya's movement. In 1939, Abai wrote an introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, indicating his intention to translate and comment on the entire text. It's kind of like a first draft of what we know as the introduction to the Gita today. Impressed by Abai's writing and preaching, two sannyasi godbrothers gave him the title Bhaktivedanta. That's where his Bhaktivedanta name comes in his full name. Bhaktivedanta, quote, one who knows the end of knowledge, devotion to Krishna. When World War II broke out that year, England drafted India into the war effort. In Calcutta, Abhay would endure bombs and man-made food shortages as he and a few close godbrothers, survivors of the Gaudiya mission's breakup, continued to study, write, and preach the remedy for all suffering, Krishna consciousness. So especially Sridhar Maharaj and Bhakti Saranga Maharaj, um, they came, actually they contacted Prabhupada and they said, because they were living in, Navdvip after the Gaudiya Math's breakup, and they said, we know Guru Maharaj wants us to preach in the cities where so many people are. Do you have any rooms you could rent us or something? And Abhay said, yeah, I have some extra rooms here. I'll just let you use them whenever you want to come. And so when we were doing interviews for the Lilamrita, when we interviewed Sridhar Maharaj, he said, I noticed that in these days, Swami Maharaj, he always called him Swami Maharaj, he wasn't too much interested anymore in business. He just wanted to talk philosophy. He wanted to talk with us because we were sannyasi preachers, and so that's basically what they did. And they came and they went out, of course, in their own preaching, but in the morning, when they'd have their get-togethers, Prabhupada was really asking him a lot of questions. Yeah. All right, slide 9.
In 1944, on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance day, Abhay launched an English devotional journal, Back to Godhead.
Back to Godhead. So Prabhupada is thinking how to do the mission. So his first thing is he starts a journal, offering spiritual solutions to material life's endless problems. BTG saw print only twice that year, owing to the Indian government's severe rationing of supplies, including paper. Abhay's messages were scarcely noticed, much less valued, and even less so at home. After the war ended in 1945, Abhay saw a good opportunity to expand his pharmaceutical operation in Lucknow. So he hadn't completely given up the idea, and something came up in Lucknow, a big building, and it would make a great facility. There was so much room and so much facility there for Abhay to actually have a big pharmaceutical operation, and part of the building could be used to give his family a better place to live too, better standard of living. Lucknow, and it was up for sale because even though it was a good building, a lot of facility, it was haunted, and nobody wanted to use it. Everybody was afraid of ghosts. But Prabhupada, he knew how to exorcise ghosts. He just go around with a conch shell and chant Hare Krishna, and they won't want to stay there, and it worked. So he made 600 miles northwest of Calcutta, with enough profit potential to expand BTG and better situate his family. Abhay made a big capital investment. I think it was 20,000 rupees. It was his whole savings practically. And he bought the building. But when he called the family's best servant to come help him, the family would not let him go. He was a fellow named Gauranga. And Gauranga, he was willing to come, but then the family wouldn't let him because he was the best servant they had. So even they were so attached, they wouldn't even let Gauranga go because they were just attached to their place. And even it meant they could have a better living standard in Lucknow at this new place, but improve their living standard. The family, indifferent to Abhay's preaching ambitions, or even an opportunity to improve their own living standard, the family he was supporting was now becoming a useless burden. If you read, there's a letter, it's in the database. And it says, I think it's 1945, letter to Gauranga. And he's saying, and so Prabhupada replies to Gauranga's news that they won't let him go. And Prabhupada said, I am no more interested in these people. They're useless. He's talking about his own family, you know. They're becoming they're not only indifferent to his spiritual ambitions, but to the idea of even helping themselves materially. They're useless people. But he still was their provider, and he was still the family leader. You know, he was the husband, so he didn't leave them. But this was really more. It became more hardcore Vanaprastha at this time. Around this time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta began appearing to Abai in dreams, asking him to enter the renounced stage of life and preach full time. Yet he felt unprepared to live as simply as his renunciant godbrothers. So, Prabhupada would later recall, those dreams horrified him. You ever hear Prabhupada say this on the recording? Oh, I was horrified. I was horrified. How could I live like, Sridhar? They're so simple and so austere. I cannot do that. Horrified. And this would happen into the 50s too. From time to time, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, he would say, please come out. Join me, take sannyas. Uncooperative though his family was, he dutifully continued to maintain them while looking for opportunities to advance his mission. So he was really thinking now, and by now he'd really given up on, becoming some big industrialist, pharmaceutical, wealthy person. Okay, and then this is the last section before Q&A. It's called The Spark. Although victorious in the war, Britain would soon lose India to Mahatma Gandhi's nationalist movement. The triumph of his former hero gave Abhay an idea. In July 1947, Abhay wrote Gandhi a letter, famous letter to Gandhi. Here's an excerpt.
I am your unknown friend. You should therefore take a note of warning from your insignificant friend like me. Unless you retire timely from politics and engage yourself 100% in the preaching work of Bhagavad Gita, which is the real function of the Mahatmas, you shall have to meet with such inglorious deaths as Mussolini, Hitler's, Tojos met with.
Yeah. One journalist in India in the 40s said, this Gandhi, he's either a saint among politicians or a politician among saints. We're not sure. He was playing both sides of the fence. So Prabhupada's warning him, look, if you don't give up politics, it's going to get the better of you. Sure enough, that's what happened. And we're going to see that right now. Prabhupada later recalled, quote, I wanted to start this movement from India. I even requested Mahatma Gandhi that, Mahatma Ji, you have got some respect all over the world, and you are known as a great student of Bhagavad Gita. Now you have got your Swaraj, the Britishers have gone away. Let us preach Bhagavad Gita. He was saying, look, just give me a month. I can show you the deep meaning, the real meaning of Bhagavad Gita. And then Prabhupada said, my letter might have reached him or not reached him. The secretaries might have rejected. But then he was killed. Boom, there it is. A Hindu extremist, Natharam Godse, if you know the history. Gandhi was coming out of his prayer meeting. He had just, chanted and probably some Gita. Of course, he didn't really know Gita, but and then this Hindu extremist he thought Gandhi was being soft on Muslims. So he just, that was it. Abai's letter now proved prophetic. Although he had hoped to engage Gandhi to advance Lord Chaitanya's mission, Gandhi's demise would soon give the first shape to Abai's plan to revive the Gaudiya mission, as Prabhupada later recalled. I had my plans, and Krishna had his. All right, so before we do the Q&A, Damayanti is going to read the learning outcomes.
Lesson 4. His mission's roots. Learning outcomes. By now, we should be able to recall some early signs of Srila Prabhupada's divine destiny. Identify the seed of Srila Prabhupada's worldwide mission. Recall why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta initiated Abhay Charan Day. Identify 3 special blessings Srila Prabhupada received from his Guru Maharaj in 1935. Recall how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta confirmed Srila Prabhupada's mission in life. Recall what inspired Srila Prabhupada to start Back to Godhead magazine.
And the last one?
Recall why Srila Prabhupada's letter to Mahatma Gandhi was prophetic.
Okay, so in terms of those learning outcomes, questions, comments, reflections? Yes, Prabhu. Jai.
So, sorry. So I had this question from yesterday as well, but some
It's
of
all right.
it was discussed today as well. Like, a lot of the time, it was mentioned that like Prabhupada was empowered by his Guru Maharaj. Like he inspired him to go to the West, inspired him to print the books. And yesterday as well, like there was some point mentioned. I cannot find it right now, but could you talk more about his relationship with his Guru Maharaj? And again, I have this impression. I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong, but like he had a very little time with his Guru Maharaj,
Yeah,
but he still carried out on his like instructions throughout his life. And
yes.
even we can even see that in you, like in all of the Prabhupada disciples, like um they are so dedicated towards this movement. So how can we learn from that, and how can we develop that guru disciple relationship?
So it sounds like 2 parts. One is, although Prabhupada only had Vapu, 5 or 6 times, Prabhupada said that at the end of his life, he was in Bhaktivedanta Manor with almost no body left, September 77. And he couldn't even speak. He was wearing dark glasses. Maybe you've seen the pictures. He was in a wheelchair. And so Tamal Krishna Maharaj, his servant, actually servant and secretary, he spoke. And what it was is that everybody knew it was Prabhupada's last time there. It was obvious that he was leaving by then, just a couple of months before the end. So he proceeded to give highlights of Prabhupada's preaching from 65 to 77. And then at one point, Tamal said, of course, Prabhupada only saw his Guru Maharaj 5 or 6 times. So Prabhupada stopped him. And he said you could hardly hear him, but he said in Tamal's ear, actually, there was never a moment when I did not feel my Guru Maharaj's presence right beside me. And that was how he was able to do it. He felt so connected with his Guru Maharaj by his instructions. Yeah. So, and there's the key to how we can carry on, in the absence of Srila Prabhupada and even when our Siksha Diksha gurus disappear. And we have to remember, we have to be so absorbed in their mood, life teachings, mood and mission, that we'll be inspired. And of course, that means because we're conditioned souls, we forget. We're always forgetting. So that's why every morning I hear. What was I hearing this morning? It was a Gita class in Mauritius, 1st of October, 1975. Prabhupada's in Mauritius. He's giving a Gita class. It was wonderful. And then I'm thinking, 2 days from now, he's going to be in a real bad car accident in Mauritius. If you know the Lilamrita. He was in a head-on collision. It was horrendous. Yeah. So you get absorbed in Prabhupada's Vani, and then you can, when you're like that, when you're hearing, then you can remember hearing, then Shravana. Because I was good at hearing, Prabhupada said, now I'm good at speaking. There's no magic bullet. That's it, it's simple. It's a matter of absorption. What are we absorbed in? We're all absorbed in something. And in the conditioned stage, our absorption is divided, right? We're sometimes absorbed, and we're sometimes absorbed in our own little maya, or yeah. So it takes practice to be cleansed completely. Is that okay? And then that was yesterday, or?
I got the point. You mentioned that Prabhupada said that he was saved by his Guru Maharaj.
He was what?
He was saved by his Guru Maharaj.
Oh, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
There
no
was-
ordinary spiritual master. He saved me, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Can
what
you
about?
elaborate on that point a little bit?
Yeah, well, the context, remember the context? They were saying, if you don't come back from India, should we get one of your godbrothers to come and instruct us? And then Prabhupada, he just couldn't, he knew that would never work. Because they weren't as surrendered as he was. He was uniquely empowered because he was uniquely surrendered. He tried to get him over there. Remember, he tried to get him to come to America. They couldn't do it. So Prabhupada knew that they wouldn't know how to. In fact, let me tell you another story. 76, Sridhar Maharaj is in Mayapur visiting Prabhupada in his rooms. And it's like in 73, Prabhupada had taken his disciples to go see Sridhar Maharaj at Sridhar Maharaj's place in Navdvip, the Devananda Saraswat Mat. And then by the time there was enough facility in Mayapur, then Prabhupada knew he could invite Sridhar Maharaj to come. So Sridhar Maharaj came with some brahmacharis, and there might have even been another Gaudiya Mat sannyasi. And it was very nice. So many things were said. And I have other stories I could. It's when Sridhar Maharaj said that you are Shakyavesh avatar. Because what you did, you must be empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shakyavesh. But so he was praising Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's response to that was, well, this is not one man's work. Why don't you help me? Why don't you join us in ISKCON? I need help training them. They're just, there's so, I'm always traveling, and I can't train them like I would like. Can you help, train them? You can be the president of ISKCON. He said, you can be the president of ISKCON. Of course, he's still the founder Acharya, but he was offering him like to be a respected, venerable Vaishnava senior, a godbrother of Prabhupada's. So, so when Prabhupada said that, Sridhar Maharaj, and this, by the way, this was something that that Prabhupada was always doing, because one of the times that Prabhupada saw his Guru Maharaj, he asked Abai, Charanaravinda, to get him out to preach more, because he's very learned, be our Sridhar Maharaj, but he doesn't preach enough. So please, always try to get him out to preach. So this was another example, maybe the last time, where Prabhupada was trying to encourage Sridhar Maharaj to leave, not just be in his mutt in Navadvip, but come and join him in ISKCON, which was a worldwide preaching movement. He was trying to increase it. So he personally invited Sridhar Maharaj to join ISKCON, be the president of ISKCON. And then, so he said, Hari Shari, who was there, said, and then when Prabhupada said that, Sridhar Maharaj, he looked and he became almost, there's a word, wistful. Wistful means, what would have happened if I did go out like Swami Maharaj, and preached more? And so he didn't say yes or no, he just thought about it. And so Prabhupada said, yes, you think about this. And then he left. And then after he left, Prabhupada called in leaders to his room. This is amazing. Hari Shari tells all this in one of the diaries. He says, so Prabhupada tells them, I have just invited Sridhar Maharaj, my godbrother, my respected godbrother, whom I revere as a kind of Shiksha guru and for philosophy, to join us in ISKCON. I have done that. But I'm telling you this because I don't want you to go to him and encourage him to actually do this. Because I know that even Sridhar Maharaj, if they come into ISKCON, it will ruin our preaching mood, because they don't know how to preach. So when Prabhupada said in 67, he was not an ordinary spiritual master, he saved me. He was telling the devotees that Bhaktisiddhanta was like a super guru, and my godbrothers, they don't understand how to, they're not empowered enough, they're not surrendered enough to know how to turn people outside of India's spiritual culture into Vaishnavas. Prabhupada was turning people all over the world, from Zagreb to, Caracas to China, well, not China yet, it's another, but still, into Vaishnavas. And this is like amazing. Yeah. So,
Yet is turning people into Vaishnavas.
you what?
Yet is turning people into Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
Yet is through his movement.
Yeah, through his movement, and still doing it, of course. Yes, through his Vani, his everlasting Vani presence. Yeah. So that's why he said that, because he knows by then, even by 67, and when they asked that question, he's being uniquely empowered to turn people outside India's spiritual culture into Vaishnavas, and they couldn't do it. And later, some of them did do it. I think I told you. They went to Sridhar Maharaj after Prabhupada left for advice on how gurus and GBCs should relate, and the advice they got. It was sincere advice. I mean, it wasn't Sridhar Maharaj's fault. They asked him, but he gave advice that, actually they turned into the Zonal Acharya era. It was terrible. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you should form an Acharya board, and they're not. You should just be independent of the GBC. And no, that's not the way Prabhupada set it up. Everybody's accountable. Gurus are accountable. GBCs are accountable. Everybody's accountable. Nobody's independent. So, is that okay?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So, all right, Mataji.
So that day of the initiation ceremony back in Dallas, what was it that Prabhupada was trying to say?
Or what did he want? No one ever found out. Prabhupada gave up. He said, okay, just go on. But the most important, the most awesome part of that, he was there to install Radha Kalajanji. So after the initiations, everybody's getting ready for the inaugural arti. And then Prabhupada had slipped out the Vyasasana and sort of gone out behind on the side of Radha Kalajanji's altar. And we didn't know it, but he was going to do the inaugural arti, just like he did in Krishna Balaram, in 75. So here he was in 72, he did the same thing. So the conch blows, the curtains open, and there's Prabhupada on the stage, and it was just a stage, and it was just a bare, brick background. There was no clothes on the deities. They just had some, I think, clothes painted on, but then there were just a few silks. There was no, people weren't going to India yet, really, to buy clothes or anything. So it was this big brawny, if you've ever seen pictures, it's this big, black, brawny, Texas size, Texas, everything is big in Texas, Texas size deity, and this is very petite, white Radharani. And so the deities just jump out of that, and there was just the background. What was the background? You have backgrounds behind deities. The background was just a white sheet. So those deities just jumped out of that background, and then Prabhupada's doing Achman. And I remember when he did, how when the Pujari offers the water, and then he puts it in the cup, and then he puts it on the stage here. Well, here's what Prabhupada did. After he offered the water to the deities, and by the way Prabhupada offered arti was very meditative. Very little motions, nothing grandiose or casual, or it was very meditative. And to this day, when I offer arti or any, I think of how Prabhupada did that. And after he offered the water from the water conch, he didn't put it in a cup. He just walked to the front of the stage, and he bit by bit, he was pouring little bits of the into his palm. And he started flinging it out to us. And we all rushed the stage because we saw that, wow, Prabhupada's throwing the water. And it was like the first Gurvastakam. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence. So we're like little kids, we're running up to the stage and we're like jumping up like birds. We're trying to catch the water from Prabhupada's lotus hand. And everybody felt completely cooled and pacified and cleansed. And wow. That was, many other things happened, many angry things happened too in Prabhupada's visit, but that's another. We don't know. Prabhupada gave up. He said, these people, what can I do? They don't know these things. So he just let the show must go on. Okay. Yes, Gaurasundar Prabhu. From Ukraine. What part of Ukraine?
From east part of Ukraine.
East part. Oh, Donbass. What they call Donbass?
Not from Donbass. It's
Kharkiv?
called Kharkov. Kharkov city.
Kharkiv.
Kharkiv city.
Oui, RC. Or,
Is it Mike? Does
yeah.
it work? Hare Krishna.
It's for the people on Zoom. Or whatever.
So we're speaking about empowerment. And I just want to ask, is Prabhupada was empowered whole his life, or he got empowerment at certain point of history? Like, for example, Sridhar Maharaj, he mentioned that when he was traveling, shipping on Jaladut to America, he got heart attack.
Right.
And Krishna appeared, whole Dashavatara, and Krishna appeared, he started to massage his head. And at that point of history, he was empowered. That's what he's mentioned.
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's very similar to Harishari once asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, how long did it take you to perfect your chanting? Harishari had a very interesting relationship to Prabhupada. Prabhupada loved to talk about the old days in India, before he came to the West and became the founder of Shari Viskan. That was kind of his specialty. So Prabhupada said, let's see, 60. Yeah, so Prabhupada was initiated. Remember the slide, he got the beads. And he was blessed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. That was in what year? 33. Yeah, 33, November 33. And then what Prabhupada told Hari Shauri, the answer was, about 30 years. Now 33 plus 30 is 63. And that's when he's empowered by his Guru Maharaj and the 6 Goswamis and previous acharyas like Vishwanath to write the Bhagavatam. That's when he's chanting in writing. That's when he's, Kirtanam is also, it can be in writing. Prabhupada talks about that. So when Prabhupada decided to do that, and do you know the event that triggered him just to decide that he had to translate the Bhagavatam? Some Indian army captain and some Indian librarian who saw his Back to Godheads. He was doing Back to Godhead still in the late 50s. They said, people, they easily throw away magazines, but they don't easily throw away books. You should write books. You're a good writer, you should write books. And then Prabhupada thought, because by then he's also telling people he's going to the West. He doesn't know how, he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have any contacts, no friends, family, no institution left to send him or support him, anything. But he's going, come hell or high water. But he remembered that before Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta sent the 3-man preacher party to Europe, to England and Germany. He wouldn't let them go until they had a book. Remember that lesson, Founder Acharya lesson? That Sri Chaitanya, his life Sri Chaitanya, what was the name of that book? Sri Krishna Chaitanya, it was called. Yeah, by Professor Nishikant Sanyal, and Bhaktisiddhanta told him to write it, and then he edited it. So it was a collaborative effort. It was Sanyal and Bhaktisiddhanta, and then when that book was published, it was supposed to be a trilogy. Only the first volume came out in the 30s. Somehow in early 2000s, the second volume came out. I don't know who, somebody in the Gaudiya Math, whatever. Anyway, a 2-volume came out. So because Bhaktisiddhanta wanted them to bring something to show the Westerners. It was written in Nishikant Sanyal was very good in English. He was a professor, history professor, and it was written with a sufficient, breadth, depth, and intellectual, highness that they could be impressed by this. So Prabhupada realized, I've got to carry something to the West. So he did. As you know, wrote the first canto in his Indian English, which he later had his disciples, refine and correct. So in 63, 30 years, he was chanting the Bhagavatam, so to speak. And also he was thinking, let's see, this might have been before he even started writing it. Yeah. Anyway, he was in Vrindavan, and this is one of the interviews that I told you about. Multiple Kriti, my god sister, wrote that book, Srila Prabhupada, Our Friend to All, and she had interviewed people who knew Swami Bhaktivedanta when he was living in Vrindavan all alone. So anyway, there's a couple of stories, but it's getting late. I'll just tell you one. There was a fellow named Gopal, a young man, brahmachari, who was in Vrindavan, and he loved to hear Bhaktivedanta Swami speak. So he would come to hear him speak. And then one day he came and he saw that Bhaktivedanta Swami was not, his rooms were, not, the door was closed, and then he saw that Bhaktivedanta Swami, he was sick. And then a few days later, he came back and he was, or maybe even the next day, and he came back and he was all better. And he saw how enlivened Bhaktivedanta Swami was. And so he said, "Oh, you're all better." He said, "Yes, and I have received special blessings of my Guru Maharaj." And Rupa Goswami, he said, according to this brahmachari, he said, "I've been visited by them. It wasn't a dream. They actually came. They had a visitation." and the message was, don't worry about your writing the Bhagavatam. We will help you. You can write purports like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, because Prabhupada had this this book which contained purports of 8 previous acharyas. He always consulted before he wrote. So now you can write purports like Vishwanath Chakravarti, and like him, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Don't worry, you can do it. So he was assured by his Guru Maharaj and Sri Rupa and Sanatan, that he could do it. So, Prabhupada would pray. Another fellow heard in the middle of the night, Bhaktivedanta Swami, this sound from Radha Damodar temple courtyard. Somebody was wailing in the middle of the night, and so the fellow went on his roof and looked down in the courtyard, and he saw his Bhaktivedanta Swami praying, "Hey Rupa, please bless me. Please, I cannot, how can I? Guru Maharaj has given me this impossible mission, of preaching in the West. I don't know how to do this. Please help me." So that's prayer. Yes, Prabhu.
What is the name?
Is that all right?
Yes. What was the book you mentioned with previous acharyas?
Yeah, Sri Krishna Chaitanya in the 1930s, Professor Nishikant.
Bhagavatam commentaries.
Oh yeah, Prabhupada, wherever he went, in Hawaii, he kept a copy, in London and Bombay, I think there were 3 copies. He had there's a big book of commentaries of 8 acharyas on all the Bhagavatam verses. So you can imagine how big that book was. That's why he didn't want to carry it around. He just had, he just had them placed.
The acharyas is like Sridhar Maharaj,
It was Sridhar Swami, the original Bhagavatam commentator, was Vishwanath, Bira Raghava Acharya. It might have been Bhakti Siddhanta. Yeah, I don't know all of them, but it was, I think it was in Bengali too. Yeah. So Prabhupada would consult them. And then he, in his own purports, would mix in his own realizations with his practical realization of spreading it all over the world, unprecedented feat that he was doing. He felt empowered by all of them to do what he was doing. He was like the tip of the spear, right? Okay, yes.
Prabhu, when you were speaking about the blessings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj to Prabhupada, and when you shared
Which
those,
one?
and when you shared those 3 blessings,
Yeah.
I realized that those are actually instructions also.
Yes.
So you are essentially saying instructions as blessings, which is a very nice way to present it. Can you speak more on that?
Yeah, well, of course, the first one was an instruction to Sanyal, the editor of the Harmonist. Whatever he writes, print it. But it's also an encouragement for Prabhupada that, and also that poem. I mean, he would show that stanza, to people. Just see how my disciple has captured the essence of my mission, just with this one stanza. And somebody else compared it to the stanza that Rupa Goswami wrote that sent Mahaprabhu into ecstasy, that captured the essence of Mahaprabhu's mission. Yeah. And the second one was, he will do everything himself. And that was like a prophecy, that blessing. He will do everything himself. I told you, was it yesterday, about somebody saying how Bhaktisiddhanta said, somebody in this room?
Yes.
Yeah, and then his glance fell and he thought he was looking at him, but he was looking at Abai, actually. He was looking at Abai Charan Aravinda. And then the third one, that was more the instruction, wasn't it? If you ever get money, print books. Yeah, So, yeah, well, so you want me to talk more about how an instruction is a blessing? Yeah, well, I mean, all the instructions are blessing, right? Like when Prabhupada would initiate us, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling. And then sometimes Prabhupada would have fun with us, and he would say to the initiate, so, which one is your favorite? He did that to my godbrother Kushakrata, who was a very shy guy. Sanskritist, Kushakrata, right? And there's a picture of this right in New York City at the old Brooklyn Temple on Henry Street. And Prabhupada, you can see he's just said that. And so Kushakrata, when he heard it, he was just turned all colors of the rainbow. He just blushed. And he was like a kid, socially. He was, oh, Srila Prabhupada. You know. That's all right. Yeah. So yeah, the basic stuff. Everything is a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, that's all the instructions are blessings. And the instructions are not only written, they're, like I told you, when he looked at me, you're an idiot. That was an instruction. This is my instruction to you. You are an idiot. To never forget that you are an idiot. You're a fool. You could never understand in a million years what I want. So I didn't really get it then. What did I do? Yeah, I'm an idiot. Yeah. You love me, Srila Prabhupada, and I'm an idiot. Jai. But now that I'm old enough to have made a lot of mistakes, you know, and been up and down and all around, and I said, okay, yeah, I'm an idiot. And I, you know, somehow or other, even though I'm an idiot, Prabhupada can make use of an idiot and let him do something like this. Holy smoke. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you're a fool, because we should always remain a fool before our Guru Maharaj. As Lord Chaitanya said about his own Guru Maharaj, fit only for chanting. What did he say that to, Sarvabhauma or Prakashananda? I understand Vedanta, but I don't understand what you said. And anyway, my spiritual master has found me to be a great fool, fit only for chanting Hare Krishna. Shy. Okay, well, breakfast is being held. All right. Is there anything else? Tomorrow, we're going to do the last lesson of part 1. It's going to be, okay, let me just read it. In the next lesson, we'll see how Srila Prabhupada's plan to revive the Gaudiya mission eventually manifested as ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Uncle S ki jai.
Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai.